trying to hang out with these young and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it.
It was Katt because he told me. He said they're gonna come for you. And I was like, Katt, come on, Katt. I mean, I just,
Get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors.
There you go. See, come on, Katt.
You ain't got no business out here with no 20-year-old white girl, with no 20-year-old period. You got this little ass girl sticking her tongue in your ass, your big football playing ass.
Nobody expected the scandal surrounding Shannon Sharpe to spiral this fast, and yet here we are. Social media is on fire, sponsors are panicking, and Katt Williams just threw gasoline on the whole thing. The footage he leaked? It didn't just hint at chaos, it confirmed it. According to Williams, this wasn't just a man catching a flight, this was a full-on escape mission. Sharpe, seen in grainy but very telling airport footage, was boarding what looked like a private jet, hat low, moving like someone who knew time wasn't on his side. No smile, no swagger, just a man trying to disappear before the house of cards collapsed on top of him. And the internet did what the internet does best. They zoomed in, slowed it down, matched jewelry, identified the terminal, and by the time the sun rose, they were 99% sure it was him. The gold Cuban link, the diamond-encrusted pendant, all dead giveaways. Was it confirmed? Not officially, but fans didn't need confirmation. Katt Williams said it was him, and with the receipts he dropped, it became reality. Sharpe's camp didn't deny it either. Silence isn't just suspicious, it's practically an admission when the stakes are this high. Katt wasn't just trolling for attention either. He was on a mission. In a stream that felt like equal parts comedy set and courtroom brief, he laid it all out. Screenshots, voice notes, alleged conversations from dating apps, even whispers of hush money quietly routed through offshore accounts. This wasn't just gossip, it was methodical. It was targeted, and it was brutal. And the scariest part? It was effective. The moment the footage dropped, everything started unraveling faster than Sharpe could board that jet. In one of the now viral clips, a man believed to be Shannon is seen slipping into a priority security lane, head down, trying to blend in. But cameras, even shaky ones, don't lie. A muttered voice off camera, "That's Unc, bro. He's really leaving," sent Twitter into orbit. From there, it was only a matter of time before everything else followed. News outlets scrambled to catch up. Reddit turned into CSI. TMZ was updating by the hour. And CNN? They brought on legal analysts to dissect what it means when a celebrity under fire flees the country with barely a whisper of warning. The wild part? This wasn't even just about the flight. This was about everything leading up to it. A string of embarrassing text messages had already leaked. Texts that reportedly embarrassed both Sharpe and his network. Allegations were floating. Accusations too serious to ignore. A source even claimed that First Take, the show he once proudly appeared on, had quietly hit pause on any future segments involving him. That alone sent ripples through the industry. If ESPN was stepping back, it meant someone smelled legal smoke, maybe even fire. And Katt? He wasn't done. He went straight for the jugular, challenging Shannon's team to come clean. "Hey Tony, drop the full video," he said. "Don't cut it, don't spin it, just release it raw." Williams insisted he didn't have the full version himself, or he would have posted it already. But he made one thing clear. He believed Shannon was running, not retreating, and he was more than happy to narrate every second of it like it was an HBO special. The footage itself was just the opening act. What followed was a barrage of digital forensics that painted a clearer, uglier picture. Internet detectives began dissecting every screenshot Bolgo's 60-hour check. From WhatsApp messages reportedly sent to a luxury concierge in Sao Paulo, to images of flight logs, timestamps, and leaked booking details. None of it looked good for Shannon. And Williams? He delivered it all with surgical precision, blending comedy with chaos, turning investigative leaks into stand-up punchlines. He joked about Sharpe's obsession with protein shakes and turbulence in first class, but then dropped serious allegations about financial cover-ups and secret accounts routed through shell companies. That duality, humor mixed with horror, is what made people stop scrolling and start watching. It didn't feel like a rant, it felt like a takedown. And while some still believed Shannon might be innocent, even they had to admit the optics were a disaster. Because when your alleged escape route includes foreign jet charters, a disappearing act from social media, and rumors of 19-year-old companions, you're not exactly projecting "I have nothing to hide" energy. By the time traditional media caught up, the narrative had already taken on a life of its own. CNN ran a segment debating the ethics of leaking the footage. Fox Sports sent a team to LAX just in case Shannon rerouted through California. TMZ tracked the tail number on the private jet in real time. It didn't matter if the footage was grainy. It didn't matter if the flight path was speculative. The public had already made up their minds. Shannon Sharpe was on the run. And the internet? It crowned the story with a phrase that jumped to the top of Google Trends within hours: "Shannon skips country." That's not a phrase you recover from easily, especially when it starts trending higher than the NFL draft. And when that same phrase becomes a meme printed on t-shirts before your legal team even files a statement, that's not a PR crisis. That's a full-on career derailment. But it wasn't just fans reacting, it was sponsors. A crypto exchange that had only recently inked a 7-figure influencer deal with Sharpe issued a cold clinical statement. All partnerships currently under internal review. Translation? They're gone. Next came a luxury watch brand scrubbing his promo video off YouTube. Then, a supplement company paused their entire campaign. It was a domino effect, and Shannon's name was the wind tipping them over. The message was crystal clear. Corporate America doesn't do scandals. They do exits. Quiet ones, fast ones. And this wasn't just about guilt or innocence. It was about volatility. And right now, Sharpe had become radioactive. Even the excuses his team floated sounded hollow. One statement claimed he was abroad filming a documentary about retired athletes. The destination? Buys. Problem was, sharp-eyed bloggers noticed that buys was nowhere on the flight logs that leaked. In fact, the plane filed onward travel plans to Argentina with a 2-day mystery gap in the itinerary. Naturally, Reddit exploded with theories. Some said he was headed for non-extradition zones. Others joked he was on a scandal sabbatical. But when legal Twitter gets involved, breaking down treaties, extradition loopholes, and jurisdictional gymnastics, that's when you know the story has outgrown entertainment. It's now a legal thriller in real time. And as always, when the facts start sounding unbelievable, the rumors get louder. Some claimed Shannon had landed in Buenos Aires under a fake name, reportedly using a surname tied to his maternal grandfather. Others swore they saw him lounging at a resort in Cancun. One TikTok even claimed he was spotted partying on a yacht near Cartagena. Real or not, none of these stories helped his case. Silence from his team only fueled speculation. Because when a man with a reputation for being loud and unfiltered suddenly disappears from Twitter, from Instagram, from his own podcast, people notice. His last like on X was 3 days before the leak, a post where he dismissed the accusations against him as clout-chasing trash. And then, nothing. Radio silence. The guy who couldn't go 5 minutes without posting a motivational quote or a hot take on sports vanished like a ghost. Suddenly, the man who spent his career speaking for a living had nothing to say. Williams, on the other hand, leaned harder into the spotlight. He booked a last-minute spot on The Breakfast Club and didn't hold back. He dared Shannon to sue him for defamation. Then added with a smirk, "Sue me from the beach, Unc." The studio erupted. Katt wasn't just reporting the story, he was owning it. And to top it off, he announced a new limited podcast series titled Flight Chronicles, promising weekly drops of behind-the-scenes leaks. Within hours, the podcast platform hosting it crashed from too many pre-orders. Meanwhile, Sharpe sponsors were abandoning ship, one after another. A luxury SUV brand reportedly pulled a 6-month ad buy. 2 supplement companies suspended promotions, a silent red flag that the industry saw the writing on the wall. A reputation once seen as inspirational was now a liability. And investors hate liabilities. Even ESPN producers, speaking off record, admitted they were already scrambling to find replacement analysts. Executives were getting cold feet, brainstorming substitutes in case Shannon's name became too toxic for live television. This wasn't a slow drip, it was a flood. The kind of fallout that doesn't just affect one show or one deal. It affects the brand permanently. Behind closed doors, Sharpe's reps tried spinning the story. They claimed the trip was pre-planned, part of a docuseries in development, but documents and leaks told a different story. Travel plans didn't match, locations didn't line up, and flight paths painted a suspicious picture, one involving mid-air detours and destination gaps that nobody could explain. Legal experts began weighing in. Some predicted Shannon's absence might be viewed as consciousness of guilt, potentially impacting jury perception if civil trials moved forward. Others argued that physical absence alone doesn't stop proceedings, especially if US-based assets are still on the table. By now, even casual sports fans were invested, not in the NFL, not in First Take, but in the unfolding slow-motion train wreck that was Shannon's public image. The memes were relentless. Split-screen comparisons of his Hall of Fame suit beside airport surveillance stills, captions like "suit up or run" flooded social media. Fan pages turned into battlegrounds, debating whether Sharpe was a victim of media overreach or just another celeb who got caught slipping. But even in the chaos, some fans still tried to defend him. "He's being framed," one post read, backed by nothing but loyalty and a grainy screenshot of someone who might not have been Shannon. Others blamed cancel culture, claiming that no one deserves to be tried in the court of public opinion before actual charges even surface. Fair point, in most cases. But this wasn't most cases. This was Katt Williams orchestrating a slow, public evisceration of someone who had once been untouchable. And whether you believed him or not, the evidence was coming fast, loud, and viral. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Shannon's personal life has made headlines. But what made this situation different was the silence. He wasn't pushing back. He wasn't denying. He wasn't joking about it on air like he normally would. The man known for his bravado was completely muted, and that silence spoke volumes. Because in media, when the noise disappears, the truth tends to scream louder. By this point, people weren't even waiting for updates from official sources anymore. Twitter threads had become the primary news feed. Reddit turned into a courtroom. TikTokers were analyzing body language in airport clips. One viral video got over 3 million views by simply lip-reading a frame of the leaked footage, claiming Shannon whispered, "They found me," to someone off camera. Was it real? Who knows? Did it go viral? Instantly. That's how scandals live now. Not in truth, but in perception. And perception was turning vicious. Blogs ran with headlines like "Sharpe's Shadow Life" and "From Hall of Fame to Hall of Shame." YouTube channels created entire timelines tracing the downfall, stitching together Instagram stories, live streams, and paparazzi photos. Even sports betting forums chimed in, speculating on how this scandal might affect Sharpe's return odds to broadcasting. One of the most circulated rumors involved a burner phone discovered by a woman linked to the scandal someone allegedly paid off to stay silent. Katt hinted at this during his podcast teaser, claiming the phone contained months of material that hadn't yet gone public. If true, that would explain the urgency behind Shannon's disappearing act. And while Williams never showed the phone, just the idea of it existing was enough to stir the internet into another frenzy. And that's the brilliance of Katt's approach. He doesn't need to confirm everything. He drops just enough, lets the internet fill in the gaps, and watches the drama build itself. It's part performance, part investigation, and fully optimized for clicks. Every clip, every leak, every sarcastic jab was intentional, all fueling the narrative that Shannon Sharpe wasn't in control anymore. He was being outmaneuvered on his own turf, and the entire world was watching it unfold in real time. The pressure didn't just come from outside. Insiders were now speaking up. A former co-host, under anonymity, allegedly claimed there had been tension for months, not just over creative direction, but about certain private behaviors Sharpe was warned to keep in check. He played with fire, the source said. Now he's dealing with the smoke. Whether that statement holds legal weight is unclear, but public opinion doesn't need evidence, it needs vibes. And right now, Shannon's vibes were tanking. By now, even Sharpe's closest allies were growing quiet. No support statements, no solidarity posts, no tweets standing by him. People he used to shout out regularly on his shows were ghosting him. When big names in media go silent, that's not accidental. That's strategic distancing. Brands were doing it, friends were doing it, even network executives were doing it behind closed doors. And in Hollywood, silence during a scandal is the equivalent of a funeral march. Meanwhile, Katt doubled down. In his latest podcast episode, he teased more audio, allegedly from someone inside Shannon's circle. "Y'all ain't seen nothing yet," he said. And that's all it took. The clip trended within minutes. It wasn't even a full sentence, just a threat. But in this environment, that was more than enough. Now the public was waiting, hungry for the next piece of evidence, the next text drop, the next damning voice message. And let's be real. This wasn't just about the allegations anymore. It was about control. Katt Williams had taken the wheel and was steering the conversation with surgical precision. Shannon Sharpe, a man who built a career on commanding attention, had become the subject instead of the speaker. He wasn't the voice of the narrative anymore. He was the narrative, and once that shift happens, it's hard to claw your way back. News outlets tried to inject nuance, but the pace of the internet didn't care. People weren't waiting for due process. They were building timelines, dissecting reactions, quoting past interviews, looking for inconsistencies. Clips of Sharpe talking about accountability or personal responsibility were being stitched next to the footage of him allegedly fleeing. The hypocrisy made it go even more viral, because in scandal culture, receipts hit harder when they come from your own mouth. At one point, an unearthed podcast clip of Shannon joking about never running from consequences resurfaced, and it didn't age well. Twitter had a field day. The top comment under the reposted video simply read, "This you?" It got over 100,000 likes. When your own words become your downfall, it's not just irony, it's ammunition. And then came the whispers about internal investigations. Multiple networks allegedly began quietly reviewing past HR complaints just in case something else surfaced. When big money is on the line, nobody wants to be caught off guard. This wasn't a routine scandal anymore. It was a liability audit in real time. Executives were asking questions. Advertisers were requesting contingency plans. Showrunners were scrubbing episodes. No one wanted to be the one who bet on a sinking ship. Even Shannon's podcast co-host went strangely quiet. Normally outspoken, often seen laughing beside Sharpe during fiery debates, they suddenly skipped 2 recording sessions. No public explanation, no rescheduling. Fans noticed instantly. "He's distancing," one user posted. "He's not trying to go down with the ship." That comment got pinned and liked over 10,000 times. When even your podcast team starts ghosting, that's when you know it's real. And just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral any further, new footage surfaced. Not from Katt Williams this time, but from an anonymous leak posted to a burner Twitter account. The short, shaky clip showed what looked like Shannon entering a gated villa in South America. The setting was tropical, the timestamp recent, and the figure's movements and build were all too familiar. Within minutes, online sleuths matched the architecture to a luxury Airbnb rental near Medellin, Colombia. Nobody could confirm it with 100% certainty, but it didn't matter. Perception was already fact. The video blew up. People were now fully convinced Shannon had fled to dodge not just embarrassment, but something worse, and the phrase "villa exile" started trending. That's how far the narrative had gotten out of his hands. He wasn't just seen as guilty, he was being memed as a fugitive. Meanwhile, legal analysts were weighing in. If these allegations are true, one said on a major live stream, and if he's now left the country without a valid reason or official statement, this could backfire hard in court. Another chimed in, the optics alone could cost him everything: contracts, endorsements, and even protection in pending legal matters. Translation: even if Sharpe hadn't committed a crime, the look of guilt might be enough to destroy his brand permanently. And the internet, true to form, wasn't waiting for a judge. They were convicting in comment sections. They were stitching old interviews with new leaks. They were breaking down possible motives, suggesting hidden settlements, and drawing lines between past controversies and current accusations. A new Reddit thread even titled the whole saga as "Unc's Great Escape, the Shannon Sharpe Fallout." It hit the front page in hours. On the business side, things were collapsing fast. Multiple appearances Sharpe was scheduled to make, including one high-profile sports awards show, were suddenly postponed due to scheduling conflicts. But insiders said otherwise. "No one wants him on stage right now," one source claimed. "It's not worth the backlash." Sharpe, once a fixture of sports commentary and brand endorsements, was now a PR nightmare. Worse yet, other celebrities were beginning to speak, not directly, but subtly. A few influencers unfollowed him on Instagram. A former NFL player tweeted a cryptic message, "This is why I stay quiet and clean. Y'all play too many games with the media." No names were mentioned, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. And that's how reputation implosions start. Not with one big explosion, but with slow, public abandonment. And as all this was happening, Shannon remained completely silent. No apology, no denial, no lawyer statement, just pure disappearance. And that silence kept turning into ammunition. Every day he didn't speak, the narrative got worse. People started saying things like, if he was innocent, he'd defend himself, or you don't hide unless you've got something to hide. It didn't matter whether those assumptions were fair. In the court of public opinion, silence equals guilt. But the biggest blow came not from Williams, not from leaks, and not even from the fans. It came from the network itself. Whispers started surfacing that executives were preparing a contingency plan to phase Sharpe out entirely. Not fire him outright, not yet, but quietly freeze him out. No new segments, no promos, fewer appearances. The kind of slow erasure used when a public figure becomes too hot to handle, but there's still a legal team advising wait and see. Internally, producers were instructed to stop including him in upcoming campaigns. His name was quietly removed from a draft schedule of upcoming debates, and staff who once coordinated around Shannon's tapings were suddenly being reassigned. That's how the machine works when it smells blood. It doesn't fire, it fades. And right now, Sharpe's presence was being edited out of the very world he helped shape. Meanwhile, Katt continued playing offense. In a surprise livestream, he dropped yet another bombshell. Allegedly, there were DMs and deleted messages between Sharpe and a young woman. Messages that were being retrieved via a subpoena. Now, whether or not Katt actually had access to these messages is unclear, but he didn't need to prove it, he just needed to say it, and the public ran with it. YouTubers dissected the clip. Podcasts speculated on the woman's identity. TikTok lit up with theories, each more outrageous than the last. Some claimed she was a former intern. Others said she was a model with a history of NDAs. And while none of it was confirmed, it didn't have to be. The idea had already taken root. The mere suggestion that there might be more, that this wasn't the final leak, kept everyone hooked. Because here's the thing, once the public believes you're hiding something, every pause becomes a confession. Every delay, a clue. Every silence, an admission. And Shannon? He was offering nothing but silence. The kind that feels less like damage control and more like surrender. And now the power dynamics had completely flipped. A man once hailed for his sharp commentary, his unapologetic takes, his role as the voice of reason, had become the guy everyone was watching fall apart in real time. And Katt? He wasn't just exposing Shannon, he was redefining the battlefield, no longer just a comedian throwing shade. Now a central figure in one of the messiest media takedowns in recent memory. Sharpe's fans, confused and heartbroken, tried to defend him, but every time they pushed back, another leak landed. It was like trying to plug a sinking ship with a teaspoon. The defense wasn't keeping up with the damage, and Katt knew that. He wasn't just reacting, he was orchestrating, controlling the drip, keeping the story alive one headline at a time. And in doing so, he exposed something much bigger, that no matter how powerful you are, how polished your image is, or how tightly you control your brand, all it takes is one crack, and the whole foundation can collapse. As the narrative reached a boiling point, the backlash intensified beyond just social media commentary. Now, Sharpe's inner circle was under fire. Reports began surfacing that members of his team, publicists, assistants, even legal advisors, were distancing themselves or outright quitting. One insider claimed that 2 staffers had already handed in resignations, allegedly due to ethical discomfort. Whether that's true or not is still unverified, but again, in this environment, the optics mattered more than the facts. Even his own podcast production studio reportedly paused operations. They hadn't uploaded new content in over a week, and fans who once flooded the comments with praise had turned hostile. One of the top comments on the most recent episode read, "Funny how the mic is always on until the truth shows up. Brutal, but accurate." And that comment alone had racked up tens of thousands of likes. Katt Williams, of course, didn't let that moment pass. In another live stream, he read fan comments out loud, laughing and mocking the silence. "Where's Unc now?" he said. "That mic hot, or is it off?" His delivery was comedic, but the message hit hard. Shannon Sharpe, for the first time in years, had nothing to say, and people noticed. Meanwhile, industry players who once collaborated with Sharpe were making quiet adjustments. Our firms that used to highlight his guest appearances and brand deals were now removing his name from press kits. Talk show producers allegedly asked guests to avoid bringing him up in interviews. And some sports analysts, they began referring to him only in past tense, as if his presence in the media world was already history. The conversation had shifted completely. It was no longer what did Shannon do? It had become what happens if this keeps getting worse? That shift is dangerous. It means the public is no longer debating the scandal. They've accepted it. They've moved to the aftermath. And the worst part? There was still no official response, no legal statement, no interview, no denial, just continued silence. As Katt's commentary grew louder, the leaks became more frequent, and the headlines kept stacking. It felt less like a PR strategy and more like total surrender. Even his allies, those who hadn't fully cut ties, were sitting in the shadows, watching the fallout, waiting to see if they'd have to jump ship too. Then came the rumor that truly pushed things into overdrive. A supposed exclusive contract Sharpe had signed with a major streaming network might be in jeopardy. This was the big one, the kind of multi-million-dollar deal that anchors careers. And insiders claimed that after the recent wave of leaks, the company had hit pause on negotiations. Some said the deal was being re-evaluated. Others claimed it was effectively dead. Either way, it was clear the damage wasn't just social, it was financial. And the cost? Potentially irreversible. And just when everyone thought the chaos had peaked, a brand new wave of speculation rolled in, this time involving not just Shannon, but potentially other big names. According to Katt, the rabbit hole went deeper. In one of his most cryptic live streams yet, he dropped a bombshell. Y'all keep focusing on Shannon, but wait till you see who else was in those messages. That one line was enough to send social media into a frenzy. People began theorizing instantly. Was this about other athletes, media execs, influencers? Katt didn't say names, at least not yet, but his pause-heavy delivery, his smirks between phrases, his dramatic countdowns, they were all deliberate. He knew what he was doing. He had taken control of the news cycle, teasing just enough to keep everyone on edge while the silence from Shannon's camp became deafening. And now, the narrative had turned from a scandal to a storm. The internet wasn't just watching Shannon fall. They were looking for who might fall next. And the moment people suspect that someone else is involved, they dig hard. Reddit threads doubled in size overnight. Archive accounts started posting deleted tweets from people once close to Shannon. And a few influencers who had collaborated with him in the past, they suddenly went private. The paranoia wasn't contained to fans anymore. It had reached the industry. Brand managers were doing internal reviews. Production teams were combing through footage, trying to figure out if any old clips might resurface and cause new problems. A well-known podcast host even scrapped an entire unreleased episode featuring Shannon plus 6 by crime unreleased episode 2v0 Boy 4. Quietly but deliberately, they didn't want to be the next headline. This is how cancel culture isn't just loud, it's contagious. Once the first domino falls, everyone connected starts bracing for impact. And while Shannon's public image continued to nosedive, the fear of collateral damage became very real, especially when the only person talking, Katt Williams, had a platform, a plan, and a pile of receipts. But perhaps the most devastating blow came from the public itself. People who had once admired Shannon for his honesty, his work ethic, his rise from nothing, they weren't just disappointed, they felt betrayed. Comments that used to be full of praise were now flooded with mockery. All that talk about accountability, and this is how you move, one user wrote. Another said, crazy how quick he went from role model to running man. And in this era, public trust is currency. Once it's gone, there's no easy way to buy it back. Not with a PR team, not with a YouTube apology, not even with time. Because once people believe you were never who you said you were, the damage doesn't just scar, it stains. And that's where Shannon was now. Stained, silent, and spiraling. Katt had turned the spotlight into a microscope, and the closer people looked, the uglier the picture became. Everything from past interviews, old tweets, podcast rants, they were all being re-examined through a new lens. One that didn't view Sharpe as a bold truth-teller anymore, but as a hypocrite caught red-handed. As the fallout reached its peak, there was only one question left echoing through every comment section, podcast, and headline. What now? Shannon Sharpe, once revered as a media powerhouse and sports legend, was now the face of one of the most dramatic implosions in recent internet history. And the worst part? He hadn't even spoken. Not once. Not a tweet. Not a statement. Not a clip of him defending himself. Just silence, the kind that gets louder with every passing day. People weren't just watching anymore. They were dissecting, debating not just what Shannon did, but what this all meant. Could a scandal like this permanently end a career? Could silence be more damaging than denial? Could someone with so much charisma and credibility lose it all without even saying a word? Meanwhile, Katt Williams, still standing, still talking, hinted that he might be done. I didn't need to ruin him, he said in a live stream. I just needed to show y'all who he really was. That line hit harder than any joke, because at this point, the public wasn't waiting for more receipts. They had seen enough. The damage was done. Whether or not the legal system ever gets involved, the court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. And for Shannon, that's the most dangerous kind of loss. Not a court case, not a cancellation, but a slow, unspoken exile. The kind where studios stop returning calls, where guests stop showing up, where invites get lost and opportunities dry up. Not because he's guilty of any one thing, but because his brand is broken. And in this business, once the brand breaks, it rarely comes back. If you enjoyed watching, you're not going to want to miss what comes next. So don't forget to like and subscribe.